This is how I shut down my opponent's run game in Madden 25. I'm a top 100 ranked player in the world, and in Season 1, I finished with a record of 142 and 22 in my online games, and right now, I'm gonna teach you guys everything I know about run defense. Now, I was inspired to make this video after one of my Discord members, who we'll call Bob, posted a video of him struggling to stop the run. Just from watching him on this one drive, I came up with 9 different run defense tips that he can implement to instantly improve his run defense, and now I wanted to share them with you guys as well. These tips that I'm going to cover apply to all run defense, and they especially apply to under center run defense. But I've also got shotgun defense covered too, and later in the video, I'm going to show you guys a super simple and super powerful gap shoot that you can use to blow up any shotgun run play in the backfield. Now for under center run defense, I strongly recommend using a formation with 4 down linemen, have auto flip turned on, have your alignment on base, and use a cover 3 or cover 4 shell. Personally, I love calling cover 3 sky or cover 4 quarters in the formation big nickel over G, which is also known as 4-2-5 over G. This is what I teach in my Chiefs defense ebook to all of our premium members over at playbookprofessor.gg, and it's what I've been using in combination with my Ravens defense ebook in all of my games in Madden 25. Now this is the very first play of Bob's drive, and he's in cover 3 sky and usering with the linebacker on the right side. After the snap, he takes a step in the wrong direction of the run, which allows the running back to get to the edge. Then the safety flies in but doesn't go for the tackle, and then fortunately a missed block by the outside receiver allows the cornerback to bring the ball carrier down for just a 3-yard gain. Now there are a lot of things to discuss about this play alone, but run defense tip number 1 is to choose the right player to user with. I always prefer to user with my linebacker who's in the very middle of the formation, so in big nickel over G, where we have 2 linebackers and 1 slot cornerback, we're gonna want to user with the linebacker who's closest to the slot cornerback. The reason for doing this is that whichever side our opponent runs to will have both our user and a CPU linebacker or slot cornerback to help out in run support on the side your opponent runs to. Now in Bob's case, by usering with the linebacker on the outside, he puts himself at a disadvantage on runs to that side because the CPU linebacker in the middle of the formation is not going to react fast enough to help in run support. That means instead of having 2 linebackers helping to guard the run, he has only the linebacker he's usering with, which makes things a lot tougher. And as a side note, if you guys ever see that your other linebacker or your slot cornerback is lined up too far inside before the snap, then you can just slide them outside so they have better leverage against outside runs. So now that we understand how to choose which player to user with, run defense tip number 2 is to hover with our user over the center. When we hover with our user, we need to be close enough to the line of scrimmage that the green bars appear above our user's head. The green bars indicate that your user is being accounted for by the offensive line in their blocking assignments. If you can stand just close enough to the center that the green bars appear above your user's head, while also standing far enough back that you have space to move laterally in either direction, then you can often take the center out of the play as he attempts to block you. To play it safe, I like to run straight back a little bit after the snap while I identify which direction the run is going. If we go back and check the game film from Bob, we can see that in addition to usering with the wrong player, he wasn't hovering close enough to the line of scrimmage to have the green bars appear above his head, nor was he hovering above the center to take him out of the play. All of these factors combined result in less than ideal run defense. So now that we know who to user with and where to hover, we can move on to run defense tip number 3, which is run parallel in the direction of the run. Hopefully this tip is obvious, but after the snap, we want to run parallel to the line of scrimmage in the direction that the run is going. When you do this, you can either bring the ball carrier down yourself for a minimal gain or force him to cut the run back to where you have other defenders helping out on the inside. In Bob's case, after the snap, he ran left with his user despite the run going to the right and therefore took himself out of the play. Now we have 2 more tips to talk about just for this play, and they both have to do with the CPU safety who flew down and got in great position to make the tackle, but ultimately didn't make the tackle. The reality in Madden 25 is that we cannot trust the CPU defenders to make plays for us, and that brings us to run defense tip number 4, which is click on and dive. Clicking on simply refers to taking control of the defender closest to the ball carrier, which you can do by pressing B on Xbox or circle on PlayStation. Once you have control of the player close to the ball carrier, you can dive by pressing X on Xbox or square on PlayStation. Clicking on and diving is insanely powerful because it can prevent the ball carrier from getting around the corner on you, and then sometimes you can even use it to dive through a blocker to bring the ball carrier down. In Bob's case, if he had clicked onto the safety and dove, he would have been able to tackle the running back for a loss. Now, to make your diving tackles easier, run defense tip number 5 is to turn on defensive heat seeker assist in your game options. This one is tough to show, but for user-controlled defenders, having this setting turned on helps steer your user towards the ball carrier when attempting to run or dive into them. Basically, this will help you have fewer missed tackles, especially when it feels like you have your defender in perfect position to make a play. Now, moving on to the next play of Bob's gameplay, his opponent runs left, and despite the user still being behind on the play, the outside cornerback is in perfect position to make the tackle, but the running back breaks through and eventually falls forward for a 3-yard gain. That'll just happen sometimes in Madden 25, so on plays like that, we just have to live with it. On the third play of Bob's game film, we get some improvement from Bob, since now he's at least hovering in a spot where the green bars are appearing above his user's head. Unfortunately, after the snap, he runs straight into an O lineman instead of running laterally. Usually, that would mean he's completely out of the play, but fortunately, Bob was able to get off the block and get back into position to make a tackle. Unfortunately, he over-pursued the ball carrier, and that brings us to run defense tip number 6, which is click off in open space. This is a tough one because just a couple minutes ago, I said we never want to trust the CPU to make a play for us, but very situationally, clicking off is the move. Now, if you're not familiar with the term, clicking off is the opposite of clicking on. You just press B or circle to change which player you're controlling, and therefore the player you were usering with will now be controlled by the CPU. When I'm trying to make a particularly difficult tackle in open space, I prefer to put my player in position and then click off and let the CPU do the rest. Now, on the fourth play of Bob's drive, we're seeing more of the same that we've already discussed. He's not usering with the correct player, he's not hovering in the correct position, and he's not running in the correct direction after the snap, and he's not clicking on and diving with a player who's in position to make the tackle. On play number 5, we can live with a 4-yard gain, but on play number 6, Bob makes a huge mistake that brings me to run defense tip number 7, which is never spread your defensive line. It's clear that Bob decided to spread his D line because he was worried about halfback stretch, but we want to clean up those stretches with our user, our linebackers, and our secondary. When we spread our D line, all it does is open us up to getting absolutely gashed up the middle, and that's exactly what happened right here. Once again though, there was an opportunity to click on and dive with the middle linebacker who stood around watching the play for just a little too long. On play number 7 of the drive, we see some solid pursuit from Bob's user, and he forces the ball carrier straight into the outside cornerback for the best results of the entire drive. Now on play number 8, we have something bizarre happen, and it brings us to run defense tip number 8, which is count the players on each side. Now I'm not quite sure what happened here, but somehow Bob's play got flipped so that the slot cornerback was now on the opposite side of the field. If we draw a line vertically down the middle of the formation and count the number of blockers versus number of defenders on each side, we can see that the offense has a huge numbers advantage on the left because they can easily block every defender that we have on that side. If you ever get caught in a situation where the offense has a huge numbers advantage on one side, either drag guys over to that side or flip your formation by pressing X on Xbox or square on PlayStation to pull up your audibles menu and then press the right trigger or R2 to flip the play. In this case, even though Bob's opponent ran left, he fortunately didn't run outside, and it only resulted in a 5-yard gain. The rest of the drive was more of the same, and unfortunately Bob's opponent did eventually punch the ball in for the touchdown, but now that Bob is equipped with the run defense tips that we just went over, he's going to do so much better at stopping the run. Now remember, I said I had 9 run defense tips for you guys, and we've only covered 8 so far, so tip number 9 is how we can do the best gap shoot in the game if our opponent is in a shotgun formation. You can do this in any defensive formation with 4 down linemen, but once again, my favorite is big nickel over G. Make sure you have auto flip turned on and your alignment on base, and you can do this out of any play, although I'm usually in cover 2 or cover 3 sky. Before the snap, the adjustments are to pinch your D line by pressing left on the D-pad and down on the left stick, and slant the D line up by pressing left on the D-pad and up on the right stick. You just have to stand with your user a few yards behind the line of scrimmage and directly across from the running back, and after the snap, you'll be able to fly right through the line to bring the ball carrier down. The hole will always open up between the center and the guard, and once you get this gap shoot down, you'll be blowing up any inside handoff that your opponent ever attempts. So that's how I've been playing run defense to become a top 100 ranked player in Madden 25. For my playbookprofessor.gg members, I also just uploaded a video to our film room section specifically on goal line defense, because being able to get stops down there can often be the difference between winning and losing. If you're not a premium member yet and you're interested in all the ebooks and advanced tips we have to offer, you can use code SPRUCE for 30% off all memberships. And don't forget that we also have a free membership tier that gives you full access to our Colts offense ebook, as well as our film room video on guarding corner routes. So whether you're a premium member or a free member, playbookprofessor.gg is, in my opinion, the best place on the internet for learning how to win more Madden games. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video.